Bismillah wa salatu salam ala Rasulillah. Thank you so much for attending tonight. And today we have a special leader, معنا. And I'm happy to introduce Magdolin Boukhary. Your nickname is?
Maggie.
Maggie. Maggie إيش?
La, it's just Maggie, but then I have Magglorious, which is aspire, achieve, and inspire.
Okay. So here we start. Yalla Maggie. Please tell us about Maggie, the person.
Of كتير. So basically, I've been a spoiled, empowered brat since I was a kid. طيب. I was the first granddaughter in both families. I was raised by a father, and just like my colleague Adil had mentioned, I used to visit my father's office and learn from him. I was always empowered as a kid. And so I grew to becoming an empowered woman with all the strength that I have, with all the uniqueness that I have. I'm married, no children, but apparently I found out 2 weeks ago by my nephew that I am a mother of two, Shagawa and Africa, my two cats. He's like, but you are their mom, and I was like, okay, fine, I am their mom. I've been blessed to have a lot of young talent developed under my reign. So I believe that these are the children that I brought into the world, right? Married to a pilot. I moved to Riyadh, made a conscious decision that it was best for our marriage that I go to Riyadh and he stays here, and we see each other like girlfriend and boyfriend every weekend, every other week, and so forth. Yeah. Been working since I was about, since I was 14 years old, doing various jobs and roles, and until I grew into the corporate world when I was 21 years old, the official age, لأنه حاولت أدخل على كذا مرة يقولوا لي بس أنتي صغيرة ما نقدر نعينك عندنا. Fine. So I waited till I was 21. And I did various jobs around that. يعني.
ما شاء الله تبارك الله. Great. طيب, tell us a little bit كمان about what shaped you as a leader. موقف, something happened in your life that...
ما في, من صغري كده عارف أنا الأولى وأنا حكون كده. But I think it's the responsibility that I had towards so I've always been quite the eldest one, the one that took care of things. ولكن it was my father's death that shaped me as the woman I am today, the woman I want all my brothers and my sisters to be as they grow, to understand and appreciate what life is all about. I lost my dad at the age of 14. My father's family were very tough on us, right? Being girls with a mother. I was asked not to leave the country for my education, although I had been enrolled at Cambridge University, right? And they picked that away from us and they said, no, you're not going because ما عندنا بنات تطلع برا البلد. Fine. I've learned to accept things as they are and make the best of other things. دخلت اليونيفرسيتي كان عمري يمكن حوالي 14 سنة لما دخلت الجامعة. Yeah. I did my O-levels and I went into university. I was told off by one of my professors saying, I'm not used to teaching kids, so man up. And I was like, I'm not a kid. Right. Grew out of university. خرجت من الجامعة كان عمري 19. طب ممكن أشتغل عندكم؟ لا أنت بنت وأنت صغيرة ما نقدر أنت بنت وأنت صغيرة. So I did a teaching job, and then I did a lot of work as a freelance journalist مع Saudi Gazette. And that was a beautiful story because I earned that job because I approached somebody in House of Donuts في التحلية. رحت له اسمه حسن حترش الله يذكره بالخير. And I went up to him and I'm like, you're a journalist? He's like, yes. طبعا اياميها زمان هذا ما حد يكلم, ما في بنت تروح تكلم ولد تقول له انت journalist. فقال لي ايوه انا journalist. And I was like, طب talk to me, كلمني. فقام قال لي, قلت له اسمع انا I'm a really good writer, I'm a narrative writer, try me out. قال لي كيف؟ قلت له اليوم في الليل كلمني على تليفون بيتنا واديني topic وانا ساعتها اكتب لك شيء عنه. قام قال لي what؟ قلت له that's how I'm going to sell myself to you. والله اديته رقم تليفون بيتنا وقلت له امي ترى حيتصل علي واحد ولد صحفي يعني وحيسوي كده. My mother always عرفت ان انا انسانه عارف outgoing and very outspoken. Okay fine, سوينا كده. He called me up قال لي describe a pear for me. And I was like In what way? He's like, however you want to. So I vividly described a pear as a woman's shape, as a woman's body. يعني. And I read it out to him on the spot. قام قال لي, can you come and see فيصل باطويل tomorrow morning? I'm like, definitely عندكم في المكتب. And I started writing for the journal. As I started writing, أول topic حقي كان controversy كان موضوع plastic surgery for men in Saudi Arabia. كنت أجي على النخيل أشوف الشباب اللي عامل خشمه اللي عارفة إنه his buttocks looks right أقعد معه أقول له أنت إيش عامل عملية؟ عارف لو أنا صحفية مع سعودي جزات بدأت أشياء غريبة عارف and I went to doctors and I asked questions and that was my first piece and that piece at that time was 1998 I think 1997 I got 2,000 riyals for that article. For a fresh graduate at the university, 2,000 riyals for an article she wrote. يعني, and I continued writing with the newspaper until one day فيصل باطويل مسك الارتكل وحط واحدة كده في الدرج وقال لي روحي بيتك. قلت له نعم. قال لي روحي بيتك عشان ما ينفع اللي انت كتبتيه. And this is all about what? Women driving. And I'm not a driver, so I have a license, طيب, but I don't drive and I don't want to drive. طيب ولكن I was the voice of women around وكتبت الارتكل يعني وانسحبت الارتكل وانحطت في الدرج. شكرا. And I learned إنه I have to understand how to work with politics in this world. What works when the battles you need to win. وطبعا من هناك I grew into corporate world من البنك الأهلي as the first Saudi official female hired by SAMA in HR. I moved to various organizations, always being the first Saudi leader or female in an organization. Bupa, I was the first Saudi leadership female on the management table. رحت على تصنيع, and that's where I met Omar Najjar. Basically, he saw me in an event. He picked my brains, and I was approached by his team. And I was the first Saudi global leader for organization development. So I managed teams across the world, and that's where I learned that we are all the same in our own spaces. So هنا يجي الأجنبي يقول لك بس هدول السعوديين ما يبغوا يشتغلوا عندهم families ومدري إيش أودي بنتي وأودي ولدي. طب أنا when I was leading teams in Italy, in China, in Australia, I used to get the same kind of requests. I have to leave because my wife is going to the hospital. There's my daughter's birthday. There's مش عارفة مين my uncle's. So there were so many different activities that they do in their own spaces. And that's how I learned, I need to appreciate circumstances and situations of people across. من هناك, I moved to my first HR operational role, but on a different perspective now. It was Gulf and Saudi Arabia. And I joined 3 days after Wafat al-Malik Abdullah. And this organization was all about the projects that he had initiated. So I stayed with him for a few months, and I had to release around 150 Saudi engineers, which was against my values, my believability, and what I do in Saudi. And I left. I left without a job, on a sabbatical, until I regained my energy, the fatigue that I went through, and to relive what I really am, basically. And from there, I was approached by someone who I don't know. The only person I know in that family is Safiya bin Zakir, the artist, because I used to go for her classes. So I was approached by somebody on an email. يوم بعد ملكتي. Okay, and that when I was on the sabbatical, that's when I met my husband. So I was never available for men. لما أخذت بريك من الشغل جاء الكابتن واتزوجنا. So the second day of ملكتي, I got an email from somebody saying, "Hey, your resume has been referred. Let's meet up and let's talk." And I was like, بس أنا حاطة nails, fake nails. وحاطة fake lashes, so it would be inappropriate for me to come to the interview with you. قال لي, I'll oversee that, just come in for the interview. It was a 3-hour conversation. في البلد أنا نازلة مرعوبة طبعا لأني أنا كلي كده بلينج بلينج بعد الملكة يعني، وأنا نازلة في المحمل. فhe agreed to meet me in his brother's office, which is a more, more appropriate place for me to walk up the stairs and meet him. 3-hour interview, and I didn't ask about what the job was. It was just basically to lead HR. And on the day I signed the offer in his office, I called my mother. قلت لها ماما انت قديش راضية عني؟ قالت لي ليه؟ قلت لها أنا اليوم ال VP of HR for this company. قامت قالت لي ما شاء الله تبارك الله. I became a VP of HR. It was the first time for me to ever experience leading something on my own. وأحمد بن زقر, God bless him, يعني said one thing. He's like, I don't know HR, you do, I'm giving you the full reign. And extremely empowering me. And I guess that's what I like about my bosses. Bosses that empower me and allow me the space to grow and to learn are bosses that I will stay with, basically. And from there were a few hiccups in 2022. Let's not talk about them because we're in public. And then I got another phone call from Mohammed Gazzaz, who today is the CEO of Avik, which is the electrical vehicles infrastructure company for Saudi Arabia. And he's like, come and join me. And I was like, Salama about PIF companies. He's like, I'm not PIF. You and I are walking out of a corporate world that we didn't like, and we want to create something different. And I've been with him for 1 year and 3 months now, and we have created an amazing culture in the organization. And I'm very proud of what we've done with my team, صراحة.
ما شاء الله تبارك الله ما شاء الله. Maggie, great career path story.
Thank you.
You're a great storyteller. طبعا great writer as well, obviously. طيب, so again, what's the go-to لماجي if we want the help of Maggie in something?
أشياء كثيرة. So I run something called My Glorious, which is Aspire, Achieve, and Inspire. And it was how I started part of a collaborative book. And basically, I offer niche services to my clients when they come in. So I do mentoring, coaching, offer discussions, resignation scripts and letters for executives, basically. And I tailor my service depending on what the person needs. I'm very good at listening to people. I'm very good at not giving advice and not judging, because I believe one of my values is basically uniqueness. So each one of us is unique in their own way. And some people walk into people's lives to influence them, bring out their creativity, which they never realize, صراحة.
You said, I'm good at not giving advice.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you're not going to pay me money to give you advice. لا. That's not it. You have it in you. I'm only going to help you with the questions, with the tools, and with the ways for you to think of how better you can become. And it's a journey. دايما أقول لهم, it's not a one-off session تجي معايا وتقول لي خلاص مع السلامة. I don't have a magic wand. There's a believability in this. It's a journey that I go through with my clients to make sure that they're able to understand themselves, find themselves, understand what works for them. And sometimes I brag on it on LinkedIn, and you see that when I get the flowers and the chocolates and the little gifts, it's just to show people that, it's good to be appreciated, but it's also a journey when you walk with a client, with a mentor or a coach. I myself have a communications coach. Okay, although I'm a good storyteller and narrator, but I have a communications coach. I have a full-time mentor. And I also have a general coach for when I'm frustrated or I'm really tired, okay? And then he reminds me, remember, just go to the pool and just chill and don't take any calls. That's what I do. So coaching fatigue is important for me to understand when I should stop, so I avoid the burnout that I get.
What about writing? You still do that?
Oh yeah, I do. You should see my scripts on LinkedIn.
So in social media?
Yeah.
Do you have anything for public?
They've asked me to come back, but no, I don't want to go back.
Okay. طيب, ما شاء الله, I guess يعني you just يعني عطيتينا تاريخ رهيب, and let's open the mic for the Q&As, and let's start, guys. Please.
Okay. Thank you, Maggie. I really enjoyed the story. I have 2 questions. The first one, given the fact the cultural change that Saudi Arabia is going. So what advice you can give the young generation, especially the young woman, with all the enabler that they have right now to achieve their goals?
I was with someone, a Misk leader, a younger cohort, or the beginning cohorts, but she's younger than I am. And she came up to me a few months back, I think it was during Sahur, and she tapped my shoulder and she's like, I remember when you told us how we need to stick to our roots, our values, even though there's going to be a great shift of involvement. So I was seeing that's going to happen, but we need to understand how that is. And I believe that we need to keep to our values, keep to our heritage, because we've seen other countries that haven't done that, and they've lost their identity. And I'm so proud that Misk and many other organizations now coming up are keeping to this heritage and are instilling it in our children going forward. So it's not easy, and you can go with a wave, and you can say, well, I want to be that trendy person, but initially, لا. So one thing that Misk has taught me over the years, I've always been known that I'm not going to wear the headscarf. ما حلبس الطرحة. No way. كده كان عندي في عقود من عقوداتي، يعني اللي وقعتها في شركات، يعني اكتبوا انه مجدلين will not wear the headscarf. Full stop كده معروف. طيب. And then when I joined Misk, I had to sign something saying that I had to wear a headscarf in public. And I realized that it wasn't that bad. And that was one thing that made me become a better me, a better version of me صراحة. يعني صح, it falls off أحيانا, ولكن there are days when I enjoy that I went back and reversed and said, you know what, but this is who we are أصلا.
Yeah.
Your next question.
Now, I'm glad that you mentioned the society, because تعقيبا على النقطة اللي تكلمتي فيها اللي how unique, and you see that our society might not be different from Australia, China, the way that they give excuse. But however, what makes the Saudi society unique from the other societies?
لا ما أقدر أقول إنه إحنا يعني كل واحد مننا unique in their own way. طيب. But اللي كنت بحاول أقول إنه إحنا we are similar in terms of how we live our lives in our own spaces. So سواء لما دائما نسمع إنه لما تكون مثلا كان عندنا دائما زمان إنه السعودي كل شوي حيستأذن بيودي أولاده، يبغى يجيب مرته، يبغى يعمل مدري، بس نفس الحاجة الأجنبي لما يكون in his own space, it's that they do the same thing. And today, with this globalization, with the various people coming from various parts of the world, كان زمان للأسف الأجنبي يجي عندنا وكل سنتين يلا يطلع بلد ويرجع تاني. صح? Today, how many of us have colleagues and friends and peers and bosses that fly out almost every month? صح؟ So and have families here and have connections here. وبيستأذنوا زي ما احنا كنا بنستأذن. So everybody's unique in their own way. I think what makes us unique is accepting all these changes as they've come to us صراحة, which is very, very difficult.
So Maggie, I think HR executives in general have a large degree of influence by default. It comes with the job. So the decisions that you make and the work that you do influences people's professional lives and their general well-being. And that comes with the job, which is quite different from leadership. One is acquired, one is just given. In your opinion, and throughout your experience, what distinguishes an HR executive at your level from being just an influencer or an inspirational leader?
If you allow me just to correct you, the ones you were referring to in the beginning are not influencers. They're basically, how do I say this? The word was in my head. It's part of what they do, and so it's part of what happens. Now, being an influential leader means you have to have credibility, authenticity. طيب. You don't gain trust and credibility easily. طيب. It takes a lot of courage to have those challenging conversations, plus the positive conversations. It takes a lot of guts from you to have the courage to actually listen to people's pain points and work on their solutions. طيب. You have to have a lot of credibility in terms of embracing knowledge and being functionally an expert in what you do. And many of us, unfortunately, do not do that. Whether they were HR or not, we do not factor. And that's the difference between being an effective influencing leader.
Thank you.
يعني ما أعرف إيش أقول لك ماجي. يعني شهادتي أصلا مجروحة فيكي being my mentor أصلا and being such an inspiring person, inspiring many people's lives. MashaAllah, you're very active. You do a lot of things outside of your role, and you also work on yourself as well in improving, and you've mentioned it yourself. What is your purpose? What is it that gives you this motivation or keeps you going and brings you back again?
I think I shared my statement with Dina, and this is a statement that I always say. I'm committed to leaving a legacy wherever I go. So whether this legacy is on something that happened on a conversation, whether it was a journey of a mentorship, whether it was I stepped into an organization, anything that I do, I have to do it with an impact. So meaningful impact for me is one of my values that I live by.
Your track متحمسين to ask you questions.
It's a small story with a question. And I met somebody a few months ago. I forgot to tell you really.
Okay.
So this guy told me, "Are you attending Misk?" I said yes. He said, "Do you know Magdolin Boukhary?" I said yes, I know. It depends. So he said,
Fair enough.
He said, I was in an interview with Maggie, and she really, after the interview, changed my career. The type of questions she asked and the advices she gave me was incredible. When I changed my career, I understood why she told me to do that. And if I haven't met Magdalene at that day, I would never be able to do what I am doing now happily.
Alhamdulillah.
So do you have other stories like this to tell us?
Oh, yes. Today, I'm sorry, Amr, but I'm going to say it. So Amr is one of my employees that works with me today at Avik. And I interviewed Amr almost 13 years ago. But Amr is not here. Amr is okay. Everybody's looking at where is Amr?
Where is Amr? Yeah, Amr.
And I interviewed Amr almost 13 or 14 years ago, right? And he was lost at what he wanted to do in his career. And he walked out of that interview, and I declined his interview and his application. And 14 years later, Muhammad Gazzaz calls me and says, I know you haven't signed your contract معانا وهذا كله بس please interview the 2 candidates that I want to put under you. I'm like, بصفتي إيش؟ المهم, so long story short, I interviewed 2 candidates, and they know themselves right now very well. One was somebody that was a co-op معايا and in one of the organizations, and she grew immensely well, ما شاء الله عليها يعني. And the other one was Amr. And in the interview, Amr sat down وكان قاعد كده عارف fidgeting في قال لي please don't remember. قلت له على فكرة I remember the whole screen. وانا اقول لك السكريبت كله. Again, the questions that I ask in interviews are not, what do you want to do in 5 years, your strength, your weaknesses. It's not psychological. It's just I need to understand the person in front of me. What do they value? Who they are? And I saw a turnaround in a person, and I was so proud that I was given an opportunity to meet this person again and select him as part of my team. And I'm very proud of the work that he's done throughout his career, how he's evolved, and of the work that he does with me today in Avik صراحة يعني. بسم الله. Please لا حد ياخذه مني. عشان تعرفون أنا زعولة وآكل.
ما شاء الله.
ماجي ما شاء الله تبارك الله، انت واحده من الديستنجويشد اتش ار ليدرز الموجودين في البلد اليومين دي. يعني nobody مستحيل في within the HR world في السعوديه تسال احد تعرف مجدولين بخاري الا definitely حيقول يس اعرف مجدولين بخاري. I need an advice from you لكل ال HR leaders اللي موجودين اليوم في الماركت.
something that relates to what is happening currently. آه، آه، من تطور، من إبداع، من جمال شايفينه في بلدنا، كيف ممكن يساهموا فيه.
So the nice thing is about Jamal Beledna, and again, what the other gentleman was talking about, we need to work on the betterment of our country. And the only way we're going to work on the betterment of our country is to be humble and collaborate together. We don't collaborate with each other. We don't respect each other. طيب. جيت على نقطة مرة حساسة عندي أنا. We don't look at our pain points and work for solutions. طيب. We're working as individuals, Munir, and that's not right. Come and ask anybody if they've approached me and I said no. ما حتلاقي أحد يقول لك لا. And for me that is a pain point that you understand and we've had conversations about in the past. حسنا سؤالك اللي بعده.
لا أنا تعقيبا على الكلمة اللي قلتيها دي ماجي، أنا I remember كنت في discussion مع ماجي، أنا I know ماجي since 2006 5 حاجة زي كده. I remember once كنت بتكلم مع ماجي و I don't know what was the topic. So the reply she gave me, Munir, I remember I was asking her to share a policy or a procedure, ماني فاكر, just for sharing knowledge. فقالت لي منير أنا I work in a big organization called the Saudiya. Whatever information you want me to share with you, I'll share. أنا ما بشتغل لنفسي ولا بشتغل لأورجنايزيشن صغيرة. فكلمة ما أنساها قالت هذه من ماجي. الله يعطيك ألف عافية ماجي.
تفضل.
يعطيك العافية ماجي. Very inspirational talk. ومرة حبيت when you concluded your talk when you said that you build an impressive culture in the current organization you work for. What I want to know is what it takes to build a culture, and is it a priority for the leaders of organization that you see in Saudi Arabia now? Because sometimes the culture is the last thing that they think about. So what it takes to build a very strong culture, and how you describe an amazing culture in an organization.
Oh, nice. طيب. Is it important to build a culture? Yes, it is. And I was hired not for my HR expertise, but for my cultural expertise. And I recall my meetings with, one of the board members in my interviews and one of the NRC the chairman of the NRC, and they said, we're hiring you for the cultural aspect, Maggie. Make sure that you create it well. And it was interesting that, culture is important. It's important for all of us, but it's walking the talk, right? And that is very difficult. Unfortunately, I've seen it with many leaders, whether Kanu Misk or non-Miskers, that we need to really embrace what we're here for, right? My only worry today is how do I sustain this amazing culture that we've built, right? I think in the first 20 people that we've hired, I've been in all the interviews to ensure that grasp is there. I don't know if I can sustain that anymore. So I don't want it to become a Maggie thing. I want it to become an Evic thing. But I believe in the leaders that we have in my organization today, that they're able to understand what kind of culture they want. Another way of sustaining culture is looking at genuinely active listening. So we really need to talk to people, be transparent, have the credibility, and allow them to speak and say how they feel. And the problem is we don't have the courage to do that, many of us. We fear that challenge, and so we step away with it. خليه إن شاء الله يعني حيعدي، فهمت علي؟ ما حنشوفه حيعدي علينا.
And just تعقيبا على كلامك إنه it's very important to listen so we can build the culture. One of the key things that now we hear organizations talk about is psychological safety, and how it's important to embed psychological safety in an organization, but in the same time, a commitment for excellence. And this is one of the modules we all studied in Misk. So what do you comment on this? How do you see psychological safety as part of the culture?
Oh, so psychological safety. People link that to job security, which is very different, right? Psychological safety is having the ability to understand and to accept people to speak and say their minds. Has nothing to do with performance. Okay, and people mistaken these two and think they're overlapping, but they're not. Right? Psychological safety is allowing people to say how they feel, what it is, and where it is. One of the topics that I'm working today at Munir on the policies of Saudi Arabia, it's on a personal basis, is a topic that is very dear to me because I'm going to be facing it very soon. So before I face it, I want to make sure that many organizations in Saudi look at it, is the menopause policy. Right? That's psychological safety at heart. We have lots of leaders, but lots of women coming into the workforce that are going to be in their 50s and their 60s soon, and they're going to be facing this. Leaders need to understand that there should be psychological safety to say, I'm going through this, and I don't want to lose my job because I'm going through this, because it's a phase and it finishes, and there's treatment for it. Apologies if I talked about a very sensitive topic, but that's me.
يعطيك العافية ماجي.
الله يعافيك. أهلاً.
طيب لو أبغى أسألك إحنا يمكن غطينا في الموديولز حقتنا السكيلابيليتي أوكي كتوبيك، ولو أنا بقى أسألك HR expert ساهمت بشكل كبير positive في الأورجنايزيشن اللي انضمت لها إنه يكون في better culture و environment للموظفين. How can we scale up هذا الشيء؟ How can we somehow unify الكالتشر؟ لأنه أغلب الناس الآن خلينا نقول في الهيئات، في الوزارات، في شركات PIF بتمر بمرحلة ما هي سهلة الآن، أوكي؟ وبالتالي يعني هذا الشيء خلينا نقول له consequences. والculture is a challenge. وsomehow الculture is يعني linked somehow to people. يعني حسب الليدر، والليدر حيكون له دور كبير إنه يطبق الكالتشرز اللي هو شايفها أنسب له. بس إحنا how can we change هذا ال situation ensure إن إحنا عندنا right culture across هذه الجهات اللي تستقطب واللي تحافظ إنه to retain الemployees وتخليهم يعني خلينا نقول يبدعوا وما يكونوا under extreme pressure وstress، ويكون كل واحد جاي يشتغل يعطي أفضل ما عنده.
You answered yourself. We need to look at the pain points of people and ask the people what they want. We recently created something called the Tuesday Treat, where I don't want to burden anybody with paying for lunch or dinner ولا snacks for the office. But in the end, I want my people to invite their colleagues for something as a treat. So في البداية كنا احنا 10-11 employee، وكل مين يجيب سندوتشات، يجيب حلا، يجيب كاب كيكس، ايس كريم، whatever. صرنا 22 فجأة، and it's like طب اللي كنت أجيبه 10 مو اللي حجيبه 20، واللي أجيبه 20 مو اللي حجيبه 40. So I went into my boss's office and we had this beautiful discussion, him and I. And again, we brought in our CXOs and we talked and we said, why don't we sponsor this as a company? But allow our employees to bring in whatever treat they want to treat their colleagues on. And so they wanted that. Again, رجعنا قلنا طب تبغوها تلوت ولا خميس ولا ربوع؟ كليشيه الخميس، كل مين بيعمل فطور الخميس وفلة الخميس And the Tuesday treat was different to the Taco Tuesday حق international ones. احنا سميناها Tuesday treat. Tuesday treat, you come in and you ask HR that you're going to bring in this treat, so we have a schedule of what's going to happen. And they do that. We asked them what else do you want to know. We have a Slido questionnaire, basically on in our town halls about questions and activities that they want to create for them, and we're taking them seriously. So everything we get, so it's all about having the courage to ask what does it take to become better. مشكلة احنا نخاف يجينا شيء ما نقدر عليه. طب ايش حنقول لهم؟ طب عادي نشرح لهم انه ما حنقدر نعمل كده بس حنعمل كده. طب تعالوا انتوا بسولوشنز. طيب مشكلتنا نحن we don't ask and as HR للأسف we think that the solution we have is the best solution for you guys. خدوها. That's it. HR قال كده حنسوي كده. And I've learned over the years that I need to reach out to my stakeholders. I need to reach out to my employees. I need to reach out to various people to understand what is best for them. And لما كنت في بوفا كان عندنا the ice cream walk. I think it was on a Monday. كان عندنا ماكدونالدز جنبنا، فنمشي كل الفريق على نروح نجيب ايس كريم ونرجع تاني على بوبا. يقول لي زهير فين رايحين؟ I'm like it's the ice cream walk. فكانت عارف like a few minutes walk to the ice cream parlor، نرجع تاني نقعد في المكاتب. So you need to ask them what they want. their birthdays، المباريات اللي بتجي. يعني أنا كان عندي ولد اتحادي في الصميم، لما نفوز الاتحاد كنت أجي أنا عاملة لوحة في البيت يعني، وفيها أرقام الأجوال اللي جابوها مثلا الاتحاد يعني، وعلق ليها في المكتب على البورد يعني، شوفها عشان تفرح عشان تنبسط يعني. ف different things and I think very soon we don't have this in many companies, but very soon we're going to have what we call the basket of benefits, and I talked about that in one of my previous presentations, madam. Basket of benefits is looking at different benefits that people can actually take on. أنا I don't have children، فأنا عندي education allowance ما استفيد منه ولا بشيء. طب ليش اختاره؟ عندي for example a gym membership. طب اوكي فاين، بس انا انسانه ما العب رياضه ولا احبها، ولا حتحرك من الكنبه يعني full stop يعني. طب what am I going to do with it? There I think when you have a benefit of basket of benefits, you start helping employees choose what they want to choose from these, and they're at the same cost. بالعكس في شيء حيوفر لك، وفي شيء حتحطه هنا، وده يشيل ده على قولتهم.
طيب معليش لو يعني تطرق على نفس الموضوع. اليوم اخوي عادل ما شاء الله 23 سنه الله يعطيه الصحه والعافيه مع صافولو، اكيد في سبب لهذا الارتباط القوي ما شاء الله من الطرفين، بس الاورجنايزيشن نفسها. انا اشتغلت في عبد اللطيف جميل مع اخوي رويد 15 سنه من عمري، وكان الانجيجمنت من اعظم الامور وما زال، ولا الان عندهم جي ام للهابينس. اوكي يعني يمكن من البراكتسز اللي جدا فريده. هل تعتقد انه ممكن في يوم يكون جزء من المسؤوليات حقتنا هنا كقاده انه احنا نفرض على كل الاورجنايزيشنز بطريقه معينه انه to enforce الكونسبت ده، انه they look after the engagement, the culture, the employees and it get خلينا نقول measured in a way؟ ولا تعتقدي this will be an individual initiatives by every organization وكل شركه حتكون هي لها الكالتشر؟ انا ما بيت concerned about الauthorities والوزارات والشركات اللي الآن بتنشأ وكمية الديسengagement اللي في بعض الجهات which is not healthy, and I think it's one of the enablers اللي لازم تكون متواجدة لتمكين القادة في المرحلة الجاية.
I have plenty of clients that I mentor and that I coach from هذه الهيئات والوزارات والsmall startups, and they have plenty of pain points, but they're learning. And I think seeing it how the country has evolved, seeing it where MBS is taking us, the quality of life program, very soon these are going to be things that are going to be mandatory. Now when they are mandatory, that's the thing. As HR, you need to make sure that you live it right. I can have the best programs, the best lunches, the best well-being activities, but if I don't walk the talk in the organization and that's not what my people need, it's not going to be worth it. So yes, I'm pretty sure that someday we will have it mandatory in organizations. لأن اليوم in Saudi capital market organizations, in organizations with peer portfolio companies, they have an NRC, they have NRCs, they insure people, but ما صارت بس people، صار في كلمة اسمها people and culture. Which looks at both activities together.
Maggie. لا بالعكس, thank you so much. I have a request.
تفضل.
And if you guys in this room agreeing with me. يلا قول. ايش سؤالي؟ What's the request?
And culture?
Culture.
Yes.
Are you ready to give us 1 hour of your time? يعني we'll choose the date and to give us كده يعني خلينا نقول I don't want to call it a lecture, workshop whatsoever على culture building.
Absolutely.
والله.
I work for Saudi Arabia. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was really an honor and pleasure to have you today, and يعني looking forward for your promise.
إن شاء الله. Thank you for having me كلكم. شكرا جزيلا.
شكراً
Thank
جزيلاً.
you.